Every time he passed by on his way to the beach, the tiny house around the bend seemed to call Aaron's name. Now, he and his partner Heather call the unassuming protected heritage property home, where they can appreciate its significant role in not just local, but world history, and infuse little relics of their own pasts into the mix. But first, we'll visit Dawn. For Dawn, being near the water is an ingrained state of being, one that made the decision to settle down with her family in a riverside property feel natural and easy. And when their new community revealed itself to be much like their open concept home, warm and welcoming, it became impossible to imagine a life anywhere else.
Yeah, maybe you should come home. You've been saying it for so long. Let the water lift you from the city's undertow. Yeah, maybe you should come home.
Water, deep, flowing, mysterious, ever-changing yet constant. The inspiration of artists and adventurers. It's the foundation of life. We are drawn to it, to watch it, listen to it, immerse ourselves, and for those who choose, to live beside it.
Maybe you should come
My name is Dawn Perot, and I live next to the Partridge River. I was attracted to the land, the community, and of course, the cedar shake structure. It was close to the water, and a lot of water around me, and that appealed to me the most. I knew this was the right decision when I bought this property because it was a closer commute for my children and going to school. And the fact that it was an open concept house where you walk in and everything was open and it just felt more free. We did the upgrades while living in the house over a long period of time. It was livable, everything was operational. It was just more, modifying and upgrading and making things better over time. Living in this area is very rewarding. It's a safe neighborhood. The neighbors in the area are all very generous and very community related, like, having community barbecues or outings, and we bring people over. And at the same time, good schools are in the area, and it's just a safeguard for everybody. So water's always been a part of my life, just basically tying in from living in Northern Ontario to coming to Nova Scotia. It just blends it all together and it feels like I'm in the nature again, and I love the nature. This property checked off all the boxes I love so much, and the community itself, and so that's why I love it here so much. The first impact when I walked into the house was, of course, the open concept. My favorite part of the interior of my home would be the kitchen. Open concept, lots of window space, lots of light, and that just flows into the rest of the house. Having a large 8-foot island was my dream because I like preparing, I like cooking, so I like lots of space, and that's such a functional base in my house. And it brings a gathering too, and it always brings a lot of food on that table from every occasion, so it's a highlight of my home as well. The most unique part on the interior of the house would be my fireplace, because I actually got it added on to the house after the fact. The mantle is made from one of the fencing that is on the property. So I had the contractor have it kiln dried, and then he cut it in size and had it fit perfectly. So when you're inside the house, you have the rock and you have the wood that complements the property. I love windows. It brings natural light, just makes happiness throughout the home because you're getting a different lighting from in the morning to at night. So for me, it was very important. So when we changed our windows, it was a typical salt box look. So unfortunately, I had to convince my husband to put a full new header on every window because now I'm taking out the single windows into one large window, which was 9 feet. At the same time, in my kitchen, I had a full wall, and I like natural light. I can see the birds coming in at the feeders right from your eating area. So we incorporated a 9-foot window. And again, the patio door was a typical French door. And of course, if I could have more wall space, I would have had the whole back of the house all in the glass doors. So when people come in, that's the first thing. Are you an interior designer? And this house should be in House and Home. Every time I pull into the driveway, I'm so proud of all the hard work that we did on this property, and it just feels like home. This property has changed a lot over the years, and my first project was an overhang made out of hemlock. And I wanted that large open concept covered up because of course you get direct sunlight on the deck. Another new zone to our property was adding on an outdoor kitchen. That wasn't the plan. It was only just to put a cover over my barbecue. It turned into an extended roof to, well, you might as well just keep on going and putting an outdoor kitchen with my barbecue, my smoker, and anything else that I could add on. So adding on to the next level of the zone, the pool house, that was a story on its own. There was approximately 10 large cottonwood poplars. They had to be taken down. But the deal was, if those trees were going to be taken down, I had to put something there because it would have just been bare rock. So we came up with this idea that we'd add stairs to it, flow into, and then of course there's a creek right underneath it. And when we built that pool house right over the creek area, you can be in there and you can hear the water running on a quiet night. You don't even need music in there, you just listen to the creek running. My favorite part of the exterior would be the fountain, which is a beautiful feature to the home. It's always breathtaking to hear it in the morning, whether you're walking your dog or just pulling into the driveway. So the lighthouse, it's a local in the area. He's retired and he worked with metal, sheet metal, all his life. So he does this as his hobby. So we ordered one from him, the largest one you could get, and my husband incorporated and added extra features in there. So at night, the lighthouse not just has a light, it actually turns like a full lighthouse. So it's actually beautiful at night. And it's a nice feature to add to the river. My favorite spot would be sitting on the back deck, looking over to the river and at the water, and watching the sunset is beautiful at night. What draws me to the water is I can use my lifestyle with kayaking, being active, just puttering around with the gardens and just going for a swim in the pool, to watching the water movement in the fountain. The tranquility and the peace and just, that's life. So another feature in my property would be the fireplace. It started out with a typical burning barrel, and it graduated to, I need a fire pit. I just love having a fire on a winter's day or on a summer day, doesn't matter. So we drew out the plan, we did a concrete pad, and then the fireplace grew. And how I got that fireplace, we were on a fundraising function for raising money for the IWK, Children's Wish Foundation. It was a silent auction, and it was for this fireplace. So we put the bid in and we won. So a year later, we had Shaw Bricks deliver our winnings, and that's where it grew from that point on. The pool house is more like, like you're in the pool, but just away from everything. There's no TV in there or anything like that. It's just a place just to relax and read a book there. So there's a difference between being in your home and being out there. In the pool house, I just want to be out there just to listen to the birds and the water flowing. So the dock is another feature that complements the back property. My husband designed it, made it like a T-style dock with the lighthouse that complements the look of it, and 2 Muskoka chairs, and we sit there and relax. And on a good day when we're relaxing on the dock, we'll see a beaver crossing our path and natural wildlife all over the place. As far as renovations are concerned, there are no other renovations. Everything looks beautiful as it is. Living by the water, it provides tranquility, it gives me peace, and it relaxes me at the end of the day. Just going near the water, it just relaxes me. Home means to me that it's not just a house, it's a home. You feel warm, it's inviting, and the door is always open to anybody that wants to come in. That's home. I think people are attracted to living near the water because it's so beautiful. I see myself growing old with my husband and living here for a very long time.
My name is Aaron Mackenzie Fraser. I'm a commercial and editorial photographer here on the East Coast.
I'm Heather Keeping. I'm a registered nurse. We're lucky to live by the Atlantic Ocean.
I moved to Halifax a little over 15 years ago and got really interested in going out to Crystal Crescent. Loved the idea of going to the beach. And as I came through towards the beach, started seeing this house. And every time I noticed it was empty, wasn't sure if anyone was living here, wasn't sure if it was for rent or for sale. And every time going to the beach would tell people, hey, I think that's going to be my house someday. I'm going to live there. When I moved in, I realized that the house was a protected heritage house, protected through the city, through HRM, and as well as through the province of Nova Scotia. And then, doing some research on that, realizing that it made heritage status for a couple of reasons. One being Francis Mackey, who was the pilot of the Mont Blanc, which was involved in the Halifax explosion, was supposedly born here, as well as Kay Hill, who was an artist, writer, painter. So it felt like there was some really interesting Nova Scotia connections to that and the history that was involved in that.
So I met Aaron and started dating a little bit. He showed me this lovely house, and I remember walking in and just being very swooned by the feel of it being out here. I was really taken by just being out by the water and kind of the feel of it, really relaxing.
You come through the front door, the first thing you see actually is an antique pine dresser that actually belonged to my mother, and it was my first piece of furniture, technically. All of my baby clothes used to live in there. If you turn around, there's a beautiful daguerreotype that was made by Karen Steniford, who's a photographer and artist. You come into the living room, one of my favorite places. You spin around and you see a lot of Nova Scotia folk art. In and amongst some other kind of antiques and collectibles around there. Certainly the original hearth fireplace to the house is there. It's a big centerpiece to the house. Spinning over to the side, there is a spare bedroom / home office that we have. In the office, there's a painting done by Kay Hill, who used to live here in the home. as well as a marketplace fisherman needlepoint, and a big collection of country and western records. Spinning out of there, you go into our newly renovated old vintage bathroom, which is a 1969 powder blue bathroom. Leaving the bathroom, you go right into the kitchen, which is a large open space. Beautiful new skylights that we've just added. And then you go upstairs, which is our giant loft bedroom, which is kind of vintage modern in a certain way.
A little bit more space up there.
A little more space in our tiny home.
I would say my favorite room is the spare room. It's got 2 nice windows in it and a bed there, which I kind of mainly use as a couch and look out on the water, read my books, and relax.
Certainly one of my favorite rooms in the house is the living room. You know, when I first moved into the house, it's actually the only part of the house that I never painted, because I was just struck by how amazing it was and original to the home as well. These hewn beams and wide floorboards that you can kind of see. I think the heart of the home kind of fluctuates by season. Certainly fall, winter, spring, it's here in the living room, it's by the fire. And then the kitchen is always a big contender as well too, because it's just a big open space, and it seems like whenever we have people over, we all end up in the kitchen. It's an East Coast thing, I think. Here at the home, one of the best exterior features, I think, is our big open deck on the kind of back side of the house. View of the harbor, gets light most of the day, perfect place for sunrise, great time for sunset as well too. It's quiet, it's loud, it's fun, it's a place to wave to neighbors. There's a lot of great things about that spot.
I think the cedar shingle siding is really nice. It adds to the character of the home. We have a lot of barbecues in the lawn, and we have a fire pit in the lawn that's quite nice, and we invite neighbors over for bonfires.
I mean, another thing on the exterior is the outbuilding. So the outbuilding, our newly kind of renovated space, which is kind of another extension of the house, just in a smaller, more rustic form. So the idea that it's like a photography studio, an art gallery, and then also like a community space. It's kind of funny that, something that's just so simple kind of derives such pleasure, the clothesline. It's the place where I get to wave to neighbors, where it's kind of quiet. It's not totally exposed either as well, so it's kind of a weird mix. And there's something that's just kind of quiet and comforting about it as well too. And there's really nothing quite like having freshly dried clothes on a clothesline and just a simple piece of rope.
Sometimes we can see some deer going around the apple tree, especially in the fall when some of the apples are on the ground. We'll open our door and see some deer back there eating the apples. It's nice to see them out there.
I had a slightly scary encounter with a raccoon last night, but for the most part, they don't really show up very often.
It's really nice to have the apple tree in our backyard. The blossoms are beautiful in the spring, and once the apples are out, we like to pick them, and some of our neighbors actually come over and make applesauce from the apples, which is quite nice, a little treat for them. It's a nice fall activity for both of us.
We've made apple crisps as well.
Yeah.
A bit. I mean, the apples are slightly tart, but just whatever, it's something. I mean, I work kind of all over the place. I've been working as a freelance photographer for over 20 years, and so it's like I'm always in some sort of random place, which is kind of fun and part of the adventure. But the idea of driving home to like our quiet, calm, comforting place makes me so excited. And it's a beautiful, twisty, turny drive down by the edge of the ocean, and arriving home there's nothing quite like it.
You can kind of see the light of the sun sometimes glisten through the trees, and I can see the water, and it makes me feel excited to be back home. so lucky that we can just walk to the wharf. It's a 2-minute walk, and you can go down there, jump off the wharf sometimes, have a good swim. Aaron will fish off the wharf, and just a nice place to relax and take in the views of the water. We've made it kind of a tradition to do polar bear dips into the Atlantic Ocean on January 1st. The first year we did it, we had 3 of us, and the second year we did it, we had more and more. So it's been nice just to walk across to the water and get in the freezing water.
Yeah. Now, granted, we usually have the fire kind of going full blast before we go and do the polar bear dip, but you know, at least we're close enough that we can run back, so it's easy enough to get to. We're really lucky to have a space where we could actually have a garden. I love gardening and I love our space, and whereas I have like lots of ideas on kind of what to plant, I might not necessarily be the best in terms of kind of like general garden maintenance. Heather, with her eye to detail and attention to detail, is considerably much better at kind of keeping it clean and tidy and weed-free. It's taken many years, much like the rebuilding of the house has been kind of building the garden using seaweed from across the street. And now we're producing fresh vegetables and fresh herbs that, you know, that we can eat and we can barbecue. And it's nice to be able to kind of have a small little hobby garden of sorts, you know, to kind of provide for ourselves in the summertime. Living by the ocean has kind of given me like a whole new lifestyle, and you know, the idea of being able to swim, to garden, to kayak, to fish, you know, there's just so many different things that kind of help define what I do now, and you know, very lucky that this is where we live. Yeah, I think at this point we've done kind of a lot of the major work, the bulk of the kind of major work on the house. And, you know, now we're at a point where we're, you know, to sit back and enjoy it for a few years before we start tackling anything else. Certainly there's like still a couple of little minor things that at some point we'll kind of rejig little bits and pieces in the house, but for the most part, the bulk of the big work has been done. I'm also concentrating on doing more of my personal photography work and showing that, printing it and showing it in the outbuilding as well.
Super nice that we generally have most of the work done here, so we can sit back and relax, and we always kind of joke that we are kind of retired 40-year-olds because it's like a cabin that we live in, a nice cottage, and we can sit back and relax and enjoy it.
There is a certain romanticism of living by the water, and I can understand it now. There is an energy about the ocean that is so powerful and rugged and unpredictable, but also so calming and peaceful. So I can understand why people want to live by the ocean, and certainly it's those things that drew me here and has kept me here. I mean, we both have demanding jobs, Heather being a nurse at a pediatric hospital and me being a freelance photographer, that this place that we've built and strengthened is our like soft place to land.
I don't think we'll ever leave this place. We put a lot of work into it, and we've made it our own.
Whether nestled alongside a riverbank or perched high above a distressed ocean, living on the shore has its perks. But beautiful views are only the beginning. The sights, sounds, and sensations of the water are constant in their impact, improving moods, perspectives, and lives. To exist and grow on its edge is extraordinary, an experience made even sweeter when shared with the people we love.